Ready? Huh. Okay.
That's right. Good morning. Before we call this next meeting to order, again, I would like to announce that on June 1st, 2022, Governor Greg Abbott appointed Georgia Blackwell as a student representative to the board, and I'd like to appoint her as an ex officio member of the Committee on Academic Workforce and Success. We'll formally introduce Georgia next as a new member at tomorrow's board meeting. I would like to pass the gavel over to Donna Williams, our Vice Chair, to officially call the meeting to order of the Academic and Workforce Success. Williams.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Donna Williams, and I am the Chair of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. It is 10/11, July 27, 2022, and I'd like to call to order the meeting for the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. Please be aware that this meeting is being broadcast live via the Internet. Before we begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome those who will be joining us via Zoom and ask that they observe the following etiquette. Please state your name before you speak. Mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Keep background noise to a minimum. Members, when I call your name, please announce present. Donna Williams, present. Sam Torn, Vice Chair.
Present.
Saw Mr. Clemmer on, but he is not attending. Did he stay on?
Mr. Clemmer had to leave the meeting, ma'am. He's no longer on the call.
All right, thank you. Fred Frias.
Present.
Emma Schwartz. Present. Daniel Wong.
Here.
And welcome Georgia Blackwell. Present. All right, thank you. Please record in the minutes we have a quorum. Agenda item 2 is consideration and possible action to adopt the minutes for the April 27, 2022 committee meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the April 27, 2022 minutes of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success? I have a motion. I have a motion. May I have a second? Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 3 is public testimony on academic items relating to the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. We do not have anyone registered to testify, so we'll go on to the next item. Agenda item number 4 is consideration and possible action to adopt the consent calendar. The consent calendar includes non-controversial items that we think we can approve without comment or discussion. This allows us to save time for other items that need more of our attention. Highlighted items in gray are the consent items on the agenda. The following items are on consent. Agenda item 5A, consideration and possible action to adopt the report to the board on school closures and or teach-outs pursuant to Board Rule 7.76. Agenda item 5B, consideration and possible action to adopt the recommendation relating to the January 2022 annual compliance report for institutions under a certificate of authorizations, names beginning with A through O. Agenda item 5G, consideration and possible action to adopt the report on the effectiveness of the Open Educational Resources Grant Program. Agenda item 5K, consideration and possible action to appoint a student representative to the Apply Texas Committee. Agenda item 5L, consideration and possible action to appoint members to the following advisory committees. Number 1 is the Learning Technology Advising Committee, the Workforce Education Course Manual Advisory Committee, the Certification Advisory Committee, the Apply Texas Advisory Committee, Academic Course Guide Manual Advisory Committee, and the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee. Members, are there any agenda items that anyone would like to add to the consent calendar? Are there any agenda items that anyone would like to remove from the consent calendar? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Sam Torn made the motion and Emma Schwartz seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda items 5A and B were approved on consent. Agenda item 5C is consideration and possible action to adopt the Certification Advisory Council's recommendation related to a request from Sayola, Inc. for its first certificate of authority to grant degrees in Texas. Dr. Tina Jackson, Assistant Commissioner for Workforce Education, will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Agenda item VC is for consideration and possible action to adopt the Certification Advisory Council's recommendation related to a request from Sayola, Inc. for its first certificate of authority to grant a Bachelor's of Business Administration via distance education. A virtual site evaluation was conducted with Sayola July 26th through 28th of 2021. The Certification Advisory Council reviewed the evaluation team's report and Sayola's response to the report at its October 2021 meeting. Members voted unanimously to delay until further review. Coordinating board staff sent a letter to Sayola with the requested items for review. At its May 2022 quarterly meeting, the CAC members reviewed Sayola's response and request, and CAC members had the opportunity to ask questions of Sayola's representative. The members voted unanimously to recommend approval of the Certificate of Authority with the conditions listed in the committee materials. If granted, this Certificate of Authority would end July 2024. Sayola would be able to apply for subsequent Certificates of Authority while working towards recognized accreditation. Each Certificate of Authority is valid for a 2-year period with a maximum number of years operating under a Certificate of Authority for 8 years. Commissioner Keller approved and concurred with the CAC's recommendation. This concludes my report.
Any questions for Dr. Jackson? Do I have a motion to adopt the Certificate Advisory Council's recommendation related to a request from Sayola, Inc. for its first Certificate of Authority to grant degrees in Texas? May I have a motion? Motion by Sam Torn. May I have a second? Second by Emma Schwartz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5D is consideration and possible action to adopt the Family Practice Residency Advisory Committee's recommendations relating to the distribution of funds trusted to the Coordinating Board to support family practice residency programs for fiscal year 2023. Dr. Mike Reagan, Chair of the Family Practice Residency Advisory Committee, will present this item. Dr. Reagan and Elizabeth Mayer, Assistant Commissioner for Academic and Health Affairs, will be available to answer questions.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. Happy to report on our committee's work. The Family Practice Residency Program was established in 1977 and has been active over those many years supporting the training of primary care residents, family medicine residents, across our state. There are programs from Texarkana to El Paso, from Amarillo all the way down to Edinburgh. So, and everywhere in between. And there are 35 of those programs that are accredited nationally. Since the establishment of the program, the Family Practice Residency Program has provided support for 11,000 family practice residents. The goal being to train these physicians to practice in rural and underserved areas. For the 2022-23 biennium, there are not any surprises to our recommendation to you. It's very similar to the previous years. The Family Practice Residency Program received an appropriation of $4.75 million per fiscal year. This is a reduction of 5% from the previous biennium. The Family Practice Residency Advisory Committee's recommendation is really over 3 areas. The bulk of the funds go to support residency training in these programs across the state. The second part is a smaller portion that supports rural rotations with the goal of trying to get residents into the rural areas so that they'll practice in those settings. And then lastly, support for the Faculty Development Center, which provides training for the faculty across those programs. So that is our recommendation to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you for all your work in the committee. I know it's a lot of extra work. 5% cut, is that from the legislature or for the rest of the board?
Yes, so it was a 5% reduction from their appropriation from the prior fiscal year, or the prior biennium.
So it seems to me we have a shortage of family practice. But just for the public and all, is that, you know, here we are trying to recruit. We approve medical schools to get more shortages that we have in the practice of medicine, psychiatry, internal medicine, and especially family practice in the large state. And as our population continues to grow, it seems like with inflation and all, we talked about that in not only educational but also in healthcare arena. It just it's harder to keep up, right?
Yes, sir, it is. And actually, in the next item, I may comment on that a bit. One of the largest concerns from program directors across the state is finances, trying to make ends meet, and it's ever more difficult to do so.
Right, because as we, as a board, coordinating board, look and listen to, we just approved the first dental school, which Ms. was a member of class, and you know, in 50 years, as you know, Dr. Reagan, and you know, as we look at that and educate professionals for our state as it continues to grow, we also need to look at the investment of not just higher education, but also the professional programs that we have and that we oversee. So I'll look forward to your next presentation.
Sure.
Just as a comment, if I might, just like the family practice, you know, we're going to have a huge shortage in the state by 2030, and so I don't know if this committee or this board, you know, has, you know, can suggest to the legislature from a budgetary standpoint that I agree with you. It seems like cutting back would be going against the kind of a major need.
Right. I mean, we definitely appreciate all that the legislature does in our state and invest in higher education and in healthcare because they have a very important duty and responsibility to the state representing other citizens, and they do a very good job. But, you know, here we're told we have all these shortages, but we also need the funding for higher education, for healthcare programs like this. I guess all of us need to help advocate for that as we provide programs. We want to make sure they're successful and are well funded. But we do appreciate the legislature and the leadership in terms of funding we do get. But of course, I know that recently the comptroller said there's going to be a little bit more money around. So maybe we can help advocate for programs that are going to be providing the needs of higher education and health care for our citizens of the state of Texas.
You know, there's a flip side to that. That is this: if you go back to our original presentation, the fact of the matter is that have to happen for more medicine is going to have telemedicine or however that healthcare is delivered, that types of practices and make a living that's worth them going all they have to go through it as opposed to specialty. I don't think we can do anything about that. The fact of the matter is the problem, lack of family practice doctors, simply they don't make enough money.
So,
ask, what exactly does the 4,700 go to? Go towards salary, towards instruction?
sure. So, running a residency is like running a small business, and so you're looking for different revenue streams, and there are a variety of those. Patient care is one of those. So, the patients that are seen by these doctors, there is revenue stream. Now, it is often underserved patients, and so there's less revenue than maybe in a private practice. And so these funds help to offset all of those costs: faculty costs, resident salary costs, a host of different expenditures are utilized. And you guys, I was going to say, I would like to recruit y'all to come and advocate for family medicine. I'm a family physician, and I appreciate the positive comments there. I think they're on target, all of them. But this money has made a big difference. It has. But we are short on primary care doctors, and if we want to have more of those, then more funding would be helpful, certainly.
Any more questions?
One more. So the rural rotations and the public health ones, those dollar amounts into the 4,000, or are those separate? Because it's so hard to recruit to rural areas, and then you have a...
Yes, ma'am. So those are separate, and they're used to support the time for the resident to go into a rural area to train, typically a month-long rotation. And if any of those are not used, then that gets reallocated to the program. So we spend every dollar, but it's set aside to encourage that practice.
Like a stipend or a sign-in bonus?
It's more a stipend to support the training of that individual in that setting.
The rural rotations, I think, are going to be really important to get the family practice residents out in the rural communities, because rural healthcare is a huge part of our state. Not everybody can live in a huge city, and I think if being able to give those residents those opportunities between family in downtown Dallas versus family practice in the middle of nowhere, Texas, will encourage more of them to go rural.
Good comment. Any others? Do I have a motion to adopt the Family Practice Residency Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the distribution of funds trusted to the coordinating board to support the family practice residency programs for fiscal year 2023?
So moved.
Motion, Emma Swartz. Do I have
Second.
a second? Mr. Torn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5E is report on activities of the Family Practice Residencies Advisory Committee, including the report on the trusted funds distributed in fiscal year 2022. Dr. Mike Reagan will provide a brief update on activities and be available to answer questions. Members, this is an informational-only item.
Thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk about what we're doing on the committee. I'm proud of the committee. It's a good committee, well represented across the state. I mentioned the scope of the training programs, and they come from all over the state. And they are engaged and feel very passionate about the training of family practice residents and providing for the citizens of Texas. We really have three key areas that we work on. The most important is reviewing and making recommendations to you all related to the appropriations, and we take that duty very seriously. We also poll the programs about their financial health. So we receive every year an annual financial report of the well-being of those programs, And the members of the committee are familiar with the challenges of residency program training and funding that. And I mentioned that is the single most reported worry among program directors. We ask questions related to the distress of programs, and we hear of programs that have financial distress. Many of these programs are not in major academic centers, but rather in community settings all across the state. And they often are providing care for underserved populations, even being established in federally qualified health centers, many of them. That's another strategy to try and improve the financial well-being of that organization. And so those financial reports do show us that there is distress. And then lastly, we ask for a written report that we review. And the written report really describes innovation and programs in the community. And I want to highlight those efforts because it may not be what you would expect necessarily among these programs. Certainly, they are training programs. They are also very important supports for the critical access patients. There are a variety of innovative programs. They have food pantries, clothing pantries within their clinics. They have innovative methods for outreach to homeless patients, a variety of different programs. And really, it's the most interesting thing about working on the committee for me is reading about all the great work that these programs are doing across the state. So they're a safety net as well as providing the training. So from a value proposition, it's a strong value proposition for supporting these training programs, I think. I'm happy to report that we are supporting a new program. This is the program in Laredo, and it's the Texas Institute for Graduate Medical Education and Research. And so we continue to see some growth in primary care. We are expecting over the next couple of years to have 4 additional programs become eligible for funding. Now, that really is a double-edged sword, though, because the funding amount is set, and so as you add additional residents, each resident is supported less. And so we've been watching that number of per resident support, and we would like it to be north of $5,000, and it's dipped below that, and will continue to go down a bit. It does speak to the belief of the committee members that we need to support every program that comes on board, even if it means a reduced amount per resident. And so that's an important, we weigh that question very seriously, but have believed that, in fairness, that all those programs should be supported. And so that's been our operating approach. And so that's really my main comments. I'm certainly happy to answer any more questions you have, but I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. Thank you.
What's the reason for the funding reduction in 2018?
I don't, but in your materials you can also see we put together a table that shows from 2011, the per resident funding was $14,396. Over time, we are now down to about $5,000 for 2022. So I think I just wanted to point that out, that you can see over time, per Dr. Reagan's point, that with the reduction in the appropriation, that has reduced the amount of funding available per resident.
There's a very nice graph that we've reviewed at our committee meetings. We might bring that to a future meeting for y'all to see. It does show that funding has come down over time. Typically, it has been either legislative cuts. I think there was one restoration there, but not full restoration to the previous levels of funding. But it is an important issue that we're worried about. That per resident amount has definitely degraded over time.
So just for the other board members, so I have an opportunity to not only visit, but got invited to a medical school by Chancellor that I'll be visiting coming up here soon. And I have an opportunity to visit with CEOs of hospitals and have this discussion quite a bit. So my question is, when hospitals or entities outside of it, traditionally most people think about residency programs attached to the medical schools, for example, UT Dell, UT RGV Med School, so they have residency programs at family practice. So just for the board's background and information is when you add residencies or when you have hospital corporations that want residencies, can you kind of let us know a little bit how that operates and how that enters into the picture?
So I actually work at a hospital, so I understand how they think. And they think about service lines. And so when they're looking at expanding residencies, almost every hospital is above the federal cap. So the federal government provides funding for graduate medical education. But that froze, I think, 1996. So for, almost 30 years now, the funding hasn't increased from the federal government, yet residency slots have. And so hospitals have to fund that over and above what they receive from the federal government, and so they choose carefully what they're going to add. Generally, they will add programs that are positive service lines. They might add residents in cardiology, might add residents in oncology, maybe surgical subspecialties, and the reason is there's a profit margin on those service lines. Family medicine, on the other hand, is the base of the pyramid and does not add to those service line bottom lines. And so it's very difficult to advocate for growth of primary care residencies out of hospital budgets. That's another reason this funding is so important, is that there's kind of a stack decked against primary care residencies in general, but especially family medicine. Much of the work that family medicine does is outpatient, not in a hospital, and so that creates a challenge, a separation from the funding sources at the hospital. Thank you for raising that point. It's a good one.
Yeah, so I've got an understanding, but I wanted to out of the board to make sure, and especially the people on this committee, because that's a very important point. It's kind of like what Mr. Torrance said. It's kind of a double-edged sword in a way. You know, you have these shortages, you're trying to do that, but you're trying to, it's like a business, like you said, as they run these programs. But, you know, we want to provide outstanding health care for our citizens in the state, and so, you know, you've got the educational component, then you've got the component to be able to fulfill those needs. And then what I've learned over the last few years in this is that the hospital base is a little different. You're exactly right. And it's a little bit more challenging for the things that we have shortages for various reasons. So again, as we looked earlier for our plans about variance and tuition and the cost of students, the same would apply in these residency programs, just a background for the rest of our board members. Thank you.
So ask you shall receive. There's the graph.
Okay.
That shows the change in funding, and 2011 was the big step off. You can see there. We got a little bit of restoration in 14, and then another cut in 18, and then the degradation from 18 to 22 is growth in size, I think, programs.
We're happy to provide this electronic copy as well for you all.
Sure.
Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5F, is the report on activities of the Learning Technology Advisory Committee. Dr. Justin Louder, Chair of the Learning Technology Advisory Committee, will provide a brief update on activities and be available to answer questions. Members, this is an informational item only. Good morning, Dr. Louder.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the Commission, Commissioner Keller. My name is Justin Louder, and I serve as the Associate Vice Provost for e-learning at Texas Tech University, and I'm also the Chair of the Learning Technology Advisory Committee here with the Coordinating Board. LTAC was established in 1998, and we are the body that is charged with engaging in substantive policy research regarding the role of learning technology in Texas, providing advice and recommendations to this board. The committee also has responsibilities for reviewing distance education doctoral program proposals and providing recommendations to the board for its consideration. Our committee includes members from universities, health-related institutions, community colleges, public and private schools. Before I get into a couple of updates, I want to say that if anything over the last 2 years, we have learned that digital learning and online learning is key for success for students, not only in K-12, but in higher education. Going on today at the Capitol is the Texas Commission on Virtual Education, which is looking at virtual learning in the K-12 world, which I think it's appropriate to do this report today. I also want to say that I applaud this board and Commissioner Keller for establishing the Digital Learning Division within the coordinating board led by Assistant Commissioner Dr. Michelle Singh, along with work from Dr. Kyla Torrey, Dr. Andrew Lofters, and everyone else that is supporting digital online learning. And it's important to note that through the pandemic, we've learned that students are looking for non-degree and skills training outside of higher education. Many of these students are looking for things online, remotely, and virtually. And so the work of the LTAC is pivotal to the success of digital learning in Texas. This year, LTAC had 4 different hybrid meetings. I have to say I'm kind of jealous of this meeting because all the hybrid meetings I sat alone up there by myself, and my committee members were virtual. We had 4 hybrid meetings. We approved a number of new online or distance or hybrid doctoral programs within Texas, including a new DNP at Texas A&M University, a new PhD at Texas Women's University, a new Doctor of Science at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, PhD from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, doctorate education for online delivery at Texas Tech University, another PhD in hybrid delivery at Texas Tech, and a PhD in higher education at Texas Tech as well. And we also had a special called meeting to look at a program that I believe is on the agenda today. LTAC worked together to approve all of these doctoral programs to increase the number of doctoral students able to complete online programs throughout the state. We also examined a variety of topics, including open education resources, definitions for distance education, what are high flex practices, and we again conducted our statewide institutional survey for distance learning and educational technology tools. And that report, I believe, is on the LTAC website for 2016 and 2018. And then we will load the next year's report on it as well for a good picture of how distance ed and learning technology has changed in Texas. So, in conclusion, the work of this committee, I think, is very important to the success of higher education in Texas. The members on the committee have worked diligently to approve high-quality online doctoral programs and talk through issues that are facing our higher ed institutions, especially in terms of digital and electronic delivery. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
We were talking earlier about the cost of education and student investment. We'll look at all at
Yeah, so the LTAC only has purview to look at distance doctoral programs. Distance bachelors and masters do not come through LTAC for review. That's on a staff level. We do spend a great deal of time talking about the costs associated with some of these tools. That is a question we ask in the survey. We have done a lot of work on open education resources and providing information there, knowing that many times students have to pick between buying a textbook and buying groceries. The more OER we can promote and get out there, the better. And so I applaud, again, this board for the OER grant programs and things that you're doing. But that is an area that I think we could look at. I will say, just from my role at Texas Tech, we do, keep that in mind, and I think our institutions do keep that in mind and try to make the online programs accessible for students, knowing that student debt crisis is kind of looming out there as well.
Dr. Louder, do we keep track of, you hear a lot of ads and doctoral programs online nationally. Mm-hmm. Does your committee look at that in terms of efficiency, in terms of enrollments, success points, outcomes, compared to programs online?
Well, I will say I think we we feel the ones offered in Texas are probably better than the ones offered nationwide, just because we're all Texas institutions. We do not get updated reports, but the doctoral programs, when they come to us, they do have to include metrics in terms of outcomes. They are asked to benchmark against other programs, and we ask, is there really a need for this doctoral program at this university or change? Because, you know, we want to be mindful of resources and what is offered there. But that, again, is an area that LTAC could take up in this next year and kind of look at quality and outcomes. We have partnered with the graduate GIAC committee on a couple of meetings to discuss things, so I think this could be an area of partnership that we could look at.
Yeah, it'd be an idea to look at that in terms of the quality and the outcomes, especially since the pandemic. Obviously, is it a big push right now just because of the pandemic, or is it something that's really been missing and really, you know, with upskilling and folks having a chance to get a degree online? I would be in the quality of the programs and compare them nationally. These programs that you see, I would say, advertised.
Yep.
And like you said, we are Texas, so we want high quality, and we want to make sure the value is there.
And I would say probably part of the push for so many online doctoral and hybrid programs this year is the changing workforce, and so many people now working from home and not willing to travel or sit in a classroom. And so I think institutions have been progressive in looking at moving some of these programs online based on student need and want, but definitely we could look at outcomes and quality assurance and things like that.
Are all the programs, you have to be in the class at the time, or are they recorded, or?
Yeah, so programs could be offered a variety of modalities. So some programs that we have approved this year are known as asynchronous programs, which could be recorded lecture and anytime, any place learning. A student could participate anywhere. Some are synchronous-based, which would be where the student has to be logged in at a certain time for Zoom. Some have been high flex, which could be where the student comes into a physical campus occasionally and does some stuff online. And then there was another one that was going to do kind of a dual modality where the in-class students participating in the doctoral program would also interact with the online students participating synchronously. So there are multiple modalities for all online degrees, and it kind of depends on what the school and the program thinks meets the needs of their program.
Last question. Does the committee look at provisions for helping the student have access to be online? So,
what do you mean? Sorry.
So I want to take an online class, but I don't have a computer. Or I want to take an online class, but I want to do it on my iPhone. Yeah.
So we have not looked at those things. That is part of, we have asked questions like that to our institutional members and partners to see what kind of device programs they might have. And, you know, work through that. One area that I know that Dr. Singh and her group is working on are some exemplars with course design and ideas that we could possibly eventually share, you know, out as ideas for that. But the digital divide, if you will, is still very prevalent, and so that could be another area we can look at if that's something the commissioner and the board would like us to do.
Yeah, so remember our major big theme goals, the 30,000 foot for the coordinating board, as you look at these things, are access, and Williams brought up a great point. Not everybody in the state has internet access still, right, believe it or not. Affordability, as was brought up earlier, and lack of duplication, right? So those are our big pillars when we look at these programs. So I know you all know that, so we do appreciate the work that you do, and it's very important work, what y'all do, because, you know, it provides a lot of access for sure for people that can't do it if they are able to be able to access it, right?
Right.
So, but, you know, the affordability issue is key, but then I think, you know, to me, the outcomes and the quality are huge. You're talking about a doctoral degree, and
best state in the country, and people look at us for higher education. So I know I've made my point.
Did your committee look at the research component of these programs? Because I know the state's trying to get more research for.
So in the doctoral program proposals, we don't look at course content necessarily. We look at the delivery method and how the school plans to deliver it. Of course, a key piece of a doctoral program is research and dissertation. So we do spend time talking about how they plan to do that with their distant students. Many schools allow students to do these things via Zoom. Some ask students to come in. The doctoral program I did was kind of hybrid, where I did some things on campus, some things online, and I now teach in two different online doctoral programs. And I can tell you the rigor and research required is comparable, if not more, than what students may have to do on campus. So that is a key piece of our discussion, because we want to make sure that students are still getting those key outcomes for a doctoral program, the dissertation, the research, qualifying exams, and that access to faculty members and their expertise.
Any other questions? None. All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Agenda item 5G was approved on consent. Agenda item 5H is consideration and possible action to adopt the report on activities of the Autism Grant Program. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Good morning again. So in 2015, the 84th Texas Legislature established the Autism Grant Program, and since that time, the Texas Legislature continues to support the program and directed the Coordinating Board to award grants to autism research centers at Texas public and independent institutions of higher education through the General Appropriations Act. For the three previous biennia, the appropriation was $8.1 million. And for the 87th Texas Legislature session, the program was appropriated $7.4 million. The program provides competitively awarded grants to support autism spectrum disorder research and to expand treatments for children with ASD. Projects are funded in three award categories. The first is the parent-directed treatment methods. The second is the board-certified behavior analyst training for teachers and paraprofessionals. And then lastly, the research, development, and evaluation of innovative autism treatment models. The Appropriation Act requires the Coordinating Board to collect data on the projects and submit an annual report of the effectiveness of each project, including the number of children served, the number of parents and/or teachers or paraprofessionals trained, and the results of the research or innovative treatment model. That concludes my remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions you want.
Any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt the report on activities of the Autism Grant Program? I have a motion by Dr. Frias. May I have a second? Second by Emma Swartz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5I is consideration and possible action to adopt the report relating to the feasibility of establishing a religious study program at Texas Southern University, implementing Texas Education Code 61.06695. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. In addition, Dr. Greg Maddox, Dean of Texas Southern University Graduate School, will be available to answer questions as well. Welcome.
So House Bill 981 was passed by the 87th Texas Legislature regular session, and it required the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board to conduct a study on the feasibility of establishing a religious studies program that offers bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees at Texas Southern University. The board is required to submit a report on the results of the study to each legislative standing committee with primary jurisdiction over higher education and the Board of Regents of Texas Southern University. Recommendation in the report is that TSU begin working on the planning notification for a new doctoral program in religious studies to begin the process of fulfilling HB 981. And I will now hand it back to the board.
Mr. Maddox, would you like to make comments?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board, Commissioner. At Texas Southern, we're very excited about this opportunity that was raised for us in the legislature. We are currently classified as a Carnegie R2 institution, one of a handful of HBCUs in the country that holds that classification. Our president, Crumpton Young, has articulated a long-term goal for us to reach R1 status, which will be a ways away, but part of that includes expanding our doctoral programs. We currently offer 7. This proposal will be our first humanities-based doctoral program, and we are very excited about it. We have decided to pursue this at the graduate level first with a master's and doctoral focus. We have already submitted the request for planning authority, which has been approved by the staff of the coordinating board. We are moving forward with planning, looking to potentially hire 2 new faculty members to staff the program. In addition, we have a cadre of faculty on campus already who have research and publication experience in this field, including myself with my own work on Christianity in East Africa. So we feel we would have a diverse group of faculty that would be able to guide students in the completion of both master's and doctoral degrees. We anticipate that there will be relatively high demand for this type of degree, both for people who wish to pursue scholarly interests as well as for those working in institutional settings. We would note there is one other public level comparable program here at Austin, the University of Texas. There are a couple of private schools that also have programs. However, as with all of our graduate programs, we cater to a different clientele than those who go to places like Rice or the University of Texas. We cater to students here in Texas who are in many cases place-bound, who deserve, we believe, the opportunity to expand their careers, to make a contribution to the scholarship, and this program, we envision, would fulfill that mission. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt the report relating to the feasibility of establishing a religious study program at Texas Southern University implementing Texas Education Code 61.06695?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. The motion was made by Mr. Wong and the second by Mr. Torn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5J is a report on total research expenditures. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Members, this is an informational item only. Mayer?
So the coordinator maintains an inventory of all institutional and programmatic research activities being conducted by all public institutions of higher education. And each year, Texas Public Institutions of Higher Education report research and development expenditures in the Research Expenditures Survey. The survey establishes total research and development expenditures for each institution by research field and areas of special interest, both accounted by funding source. The survey includes Research Expenditure Survey, which includes the specific definition of research and development and reporting guidelines for research and development activities. The coordinating board staff also works with the Independent Colleges and Universities of Texas, or ICUTs, to obtain research expenditure data from Texas independent nonprofit colleges and universities. While ICUT institutions are provided the opportunity to submit research expenditure data, they are not required to report. Staff is providing the board this update for fiscal year 2021 total research expenditures for review before posting the information to the agency website, and I think it is also fitting considering the discussion you all had this morning on research and development as part of the Building a Talent Strong Texas.
Any questions? Thank you. Next on the agenda is agenda items 5K and 5L, 1 through 6. Those were approved on consent. Agenda item 5M1 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from Angelo State University for a Doctor of Social Work, a DSW in Social Work, Dr. Don R. Toplift, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, and Dr. Joel L. Carr, Associate Professor and Director, proposed DSW in Clinical Social Work, are available for questions and comments. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Angelo State University is seeking approval to offer a Doctor of Social Work degree program in clinical social work beginning in fall 2022. It would require a Master of Social Work degree for admission. Students would take courses along a cohort model. There would be 53 required semester credit hours with no electives, including 4 semester credit hours of internship and residencies. There would be 6 semester credit hours of a capstone project required, but no dissertation. The proposed program is designed to take 2 years for completion, assuming full-time enrollment and summer sessions for all students. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects child, family, and school social work positions to grow 13% from 2020 to 2030. For all social work fields combined, the Texas Workforce Commission projects social worker specialty fields will grow 17% through 2028, creating 1,536 job openings per year. For all social work fields combined, the TWC expects a 14% growth rate through 2028 and 20,623 job openings per year. I just wanted to point out, you actually all have 2 proposals on this agenda. The first is from Angelo State, and the second is from Stephen F. Austin State University, which will be the first 2 DSW programs in Texas. There are 5 PhD programs in social work in Texas, but the DSW is a different type of degree. So the DSW is an advanced professional practice degree, unlike the academic scholarship PhD degree. Graduates of a DSW program are likely to enter private practice, advance in practice at organizations such as the Veterans Administration, or work in social work management, assessment, or consulting. Graduates from DSW programs are qualified to teach in community colleges or private or oriented Bachelor of Social Work or MSW programs, but they would likely not compete with PhD graduates for tenure track positions at research universities. Accreditation is not yet offered by the Council on Social Work Education, but the accreditor has developed standards for future DSW accreditation, and the proposed curriculum has been designed for accreditation once it is available. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, the program would hire 2 new faculty by fall 2023 for a total of 5 core faculty. And that concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Toplift, would you like to make comments?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're really pleased to be here today to bring this proposal for a Doctor of Social Work program before this committee. We think that as you see across the news media and everywhere, that mental health is one of the biggest issues that we face today. This program proposes to address some of those needs, certainly not all of them, but particularly in an underrepresented area in West Texas. I am very pleased to have with me today Dr. Joel Carr, who will be the director of the program. Let me just say a word about Dr. Carr's credentials. He's not only an academic, but he has spent time in the out of academia as working for mental health institutions. He's also a veteran who served in the United States Navy and as a social work person in there. We had a discussion about some of that on the way down here this morning, and I can tell you that he is going to do a great job of leading this program. So again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to any questions that you might have.
So our program will be both offered online and face-to-face and have both full-time and part-time options, allowing maximum flexibility for students to enter the program. It will take, at the very shortest, a minimum of 2 years to complete the program, though some may take a few semesters more. As previously stated, it is 53 semester credit hours total in length, and that constitutes 17 courses, and its focus is on advanced clinical practice. So, as emphasized, it's not a PhD program. It is not designed to train scholars to design original research. It's designed to train advanced clinical practitioners to apply the research to clinical problems experienced by Texans and others throughout our country.
Members, any questions?
I have a question and a comment. First of all, thank you for providing that, proactively providing the difference. It's personal because my daughter-in-law just received. Explain it to me, all right? But secondly, I'll ask you this question, and I'll ask the next group this. We need 2 programs at the same time in the state of Texas?
I would suggest we do for a couple of reasons. One, the 2 programs, the other one being proposed in ours, are very far apart geographically in the state. Ours would be in West Texas, and the other proposed program would be in East Texas. A review of the material from the other program, I do not firsthand, but from that review, theirs differs from ours. Ours is specifically a clinical social work program to address mental health and substance use concerns, whereas their program seems to be more generalist, advanced generalist in nature, and perhaps with a social policy emphasis.
I might just add on to that. I think if you look at across the state of Texas, and it's in your material there, the number of graduates from the PhD programs in the past year was 10. And that is not sufficient number of even PhD graduates to meet the need within the state. So I would submit that even with 2 programs starting at the same time, we're certainly not going to flood the market. Our first cohort will be 10. Their first cohort is listed in the material as 10. I think there's room for more than 20 of these in the state of Texas. So I guess I would submit that no, it's not flooding the market, so to speak.
Any additional questions? I have a question on the accreditation. How are you going to work toward that in parallel while the cohort is going through, or are you going to wait until the cohort gets through and then start working on it, or?
Sure. So the Council on Social Work Education is the body that accredits social work in the United States. Right now, they're piloting accreditation standards. The piloting project will take approximately 3 years, and then after that, it will go through public comment, and then adjustments will be made. So according to the CSWE's website, in approximately 5 years, they'll be ready to begin accrediting programs. When they launch formal accreditation, it's our intention to make application for that, regardless of where a cohort is at in the program or how many have finished or not. So once we make application, we'll follow their procedures in gaining accreditation at that.
So that's a good question, Ms. Williams, because how it applies to health science centers like medical schools, accreditation. So you'll actually graduate people before you're accredited.
Yes, and if I may add to that, right now, presently in the United States, there is no accredited doctoral program by the CSWE at all. No PhD, no DSW, only baccalaureate and master's degrees are. Of course, there's regional accreditation.
Right.
So this effort is interesting from the Council on Social Work Education because it seems to be according to some, advancing the profession into a doctoral level category.
So how does the, I guess the association, both nationally, and there's an association in Texas, I'm sure, of social workers, right? And what is their take or their stance, or do they have it? Like you said, as it continues to progress, that's a good thing, right, professionally?
I believe it is. I don't know the particular positions of those organizations. I do know that everyone seems to be supportive of the movement.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from Angelo State University for a Doctorate of Social Work, a DSW, in social work?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Emma Schwartz and seconded by Sam Torn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5M2 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from Stephen F. Austin State University for a Doctor of Social Work, a DSW, in social work. Dr. Butcher his name. I'll say Dr. Oliphant. And when you come up here, if you would pronounce it for me, I'll try and get it correct tomorrow, but no promises. But Dr. Oliphant, an interim chair of School of Social Work, and Dr. Freddie Avant, interim dean, Office of Research and Graduate Studies, interim dean, College of Liberal and Applied Arts, and director, School of Social Work, and Dr. Mark Guidry, associate professor, Office of Academic Affairs, are available to answer questions. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Stephen F. Austin State University is proposing a Doctor of Social Work degree in social work to be delivered face-to-face. The proposed program would require 54 semester credit hours for students entering with a master's degree beginning in spring of 2023. The proposed DSW would prepare students for the fields of social work and higher education and in the practice arena. Courses are designed to maximize student preparation for a wide range of social work practice areas, specifically in leadership, clinical practice, and higher education, including the continually growing need area of mental health care. As mentioned with the previous program, the Texas Workforce Commission anticipates social work specialty fields will experience an average of 17% statewide growth through 2028. This growth would create an average of 1,536 job openings per year in Texas. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, Stephen F. Austin will hire 2 additional core faculty members by the program's second and third years, respectively. Marks, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Should I start with you, Dr. Freddie Avant?
I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk about the DSW program. Currently at the university, I serve as the interim dean of research and graduate studies for this year. However, the last 35 years I've served in the School of Social Work, professor and a director and associate dean. I've also been very much involved in our accrediting agency, which is the Council on Social Education. Therefore, I've had the opportunity to really observe the landscape and the growth and need of all levels. This particular DSW program meets those needs. For example, not only from when we talk about practice with mental health and substance abuse, also across the spectrum in terms of the academic work. Primary professors who teach in Research Ones and other institutions, most of them have an MSW degree. And there's a tremendous shortage, not only teaching at that level, but also practitioners. This particular degree would create opportunities for individuals to not only get an advanced degree, to continue in the academic community. Because MSWs, which is a permanent practice degree, never take a program about pedagogy and teaching. This particular degree would have the opportunity to provide resources at undergraduate and graduate levels for students to have MSW level to get a more advanced degree and also meet the practice community needs.
I'm going to try to pronounce your name. Dr. Emerente Oliphant.
Madam Chair and committee, Madam Chair, you did an excellent job on that, yes. you did it correct. It's Emerente. Thank you so much. I'm Emerente Oliphant, and I have been the MSW director. I've been at the university since 2006, and during that time, we saw the need for candidates, doctoral candidates, to teach them and to really develop that leadership that is needed so much in the East Texas region. We also focus on not only that region, but with the MSW program, we have students from Louisiana, Arkansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, so we anticipate that we will have students from that area. We have a specific school in Louisiana that really feeds our MSW program, and we're very excited about that. As Dr. Evans said, it's 54 credit hours. It's a face-to-face program. We want to start face-to-face, and then we know and anticipate that there will be a need for online at some point. We want to start face-to-face. We are aware that our students will come from the whole East Texas area, so it will be a commitment. We already have a waiting list of about 20 students that are very interested in the program, and we work with about 200 agencies in the region, and those agencies, that's where we will recruit. We will also recruit at our conferences. We are very actively involved in NASW, and we are also site visitors for the Council on Social Work Education. So we are very excited about this program, and we know the need is there.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to emphasize that a key difference of this program from Angelo State's is this program has a pedagogical track so that it will train the DSW candidates to be able to teach social work at the BSW and MSW levels. And because the Texas Workforce Commission says that they project a 17% increase in the need for social workers between now and 2028, that means we're going to need more instructors who can teach those BSW and MSW students. The other thing I'd like to say is our MSW is extremely successful. It has over 100 students. Our BSW has over 300. They are well-established programs, and we feel that now is the time we're poised to do this DSW. The nearest program is Tulane University, so we do feel that there is a tremendous need here for this program. And SFA, the provost office, is willing to put all of the necessary resources towards this program to make it happen.
Members, any questions?
Yeah, you guys have confused me, which is not difficult. But so the last guys that were up here said the difference between the PhD and DSW was DSW guys are going to practice and PhD guys are going to research or teach or whatever. What I heard you say is you're having the DSW so they can teach.
Yes, sir. That is one of the things that they can do. They could also go into administration, healthcare management, leadership positions, and enhance their clinical skills. But our students will already be coming to us with an MSW, which prepares them, allows them to be licensed as clinical social workers. So there are these other aspects to our program. And with a PhD program, yes, they certainly prepare, students to be professors at the college level. This program would do that as well, not in other PhD programs, but in BSW and MSW programs. Yes, it would prepare students to be able to teach at those levels. And as you heard, there's not very many doctoral, PhD students coming out of social work programs in Texas right now. There's an increased need for social workers, so we do think there's going to be a need for more teachers, more instructors at the BSW and MSW levels, and this degree would help provide that. But it would also, it has the healthcare management leadership aspect, and there is also a clinical aspect.
So just so I'm clear, and thank you for that. I mean, I deal with this with what I do, so I understand it's a burgeoning field, okay? I hope you have some sort of class in there for good parenting. Okay, that might help a little bit, but my point is, as I understand it, an MSW, you get your MSW, then you gotta have 3,000 hours of practical, and then you get your license. Isn't that right? Something like that?
That's correct.
Okay, that's correct. Okay. So we have a guy that gets an MSW, like my nephew, he's got an MSW, he's got his 3,000 hours, so now he's licensed as a social worker. Do these DSWs, are they any better prepared, or they provide any better clinical, practical, they do it better than an MSW?
I can respond to that. In all 50 states, the clinical license at the MSW level. You must have an MSW with the experience or internships. Only 2 states in the United States will allow testing or licensure at the DSW level. And Texas is if the DSW curriculum allows students to have the internship requirement to set for an exam. Primarily, most licensed social workers are at the MS and BSW level.
Okay, I think it's a need, so I'm voting yes. I'll make the motion, whatever.
I have a comment before they call for the motion, if I may, Madam Chair. So, one thing that stuff me when I made my notes on the program for Angelo State is they're starting in the fall of 2022. Your proposal start is the spring of 2023. So my question to you is, do you need that extra time, or what is the reasoning behind that?
We need the extra time. Unfortunately, we have lost some of our. We had early retirement at university, and we lost 2 of our best full professors. So the additional time would be helpful.
If this committee approves or moves recommendation to the full board tomorrow for consideration of approval, are you asking to maybe start earlier than the spring of 2023 if things work out getting your faculty, or you're going to stay on that schedule?
No, we want to spring 2023.
Okay.
We have already, we're going to be hiring another social work faculty member to begin for the spring of 23 to replace one of those losses, so that will be, up to the level of faculty we need to run the program along with the MSW and the BSW.
That, along with the other, you've probably been here at the meeting, but you know how I stress about quality, and when proposals are coming forward, in order to have the top quality faculty, and that's why I'm asking the question. In this particular area, is it tough to get faculty? As we look at programs and approve programs, we want to make sure that, we have the proper quality faculty. Are there issues recruiting faculty, not only in the state or around the country? And so that's important for this committee to realize, members, as we look at these programs, because it's great to approve the needs like this particular program, which I applaud you and Angelo State. Stephen F. Austin, actually, when I was a junior in high school many years ago, I went to debate camp there and did very well as I went through that program. But you have a beautiful campus. But we want to be able to provide this opportunity. We need these programs. There is a big need. But we also have to look at the structure of approving the program. So I did notice that difference in the timeline, so I appreciate y'all looking into that and making sure you have things in place for faculty.
Can I just add that we are really fortunate to be able to conduct a search in the fall to have a faculty member in place in spring, and that was just approved by our provost. So with that, we believe we will attract quality faculty.
I do have just a general question. Is the licensure requirement to get in this program, or if not, then can the student get licensure after graduate from this program if they are not licensed? Because your program is not accredited, right? Correct?
Yes, it is accredited at the Council on Social Work. Yes. It is accredited. The BSW, MSW programs are accredited, so our MSW program is accredited. But the DSW, as you heard with the previous presentation, is not accredited yet. We are also looking at the same cycle of getting accredited once we are able to do that.
So can the student get licensure after graduate from DSW program?
If a student comes in with a licensed clinical social work credentials, then they are already licensed.
Exactly.
And then in addition to that, they can have the DSW that adds to the expertise. But a student cannot, for instance, come in, have a MSW and a DSW and then be licensed. But if they do the hours, they will get licensed based on the MSW, not based on the DSW.
So is there a license for DSW at all? MSW, yes. There's a licensure right now.
Yes,
but DSW has a licensure.
Only two.
Only
for all 50 states, 50 licensed at the MSW level, half of the state licensed at the BSW level, only 2 at the DSW level.
Wow.
Texas is one of those 2.
But can the student graduate from this program get DSW licensures?
We will not be admitting students without the MSW.
Right. Yeah.
When students who come in our program, based upon the current standards that is being proposed, students must have 3 years of experience to come into the the DSW program.
But they don't need to be licensed.
But they don't have to be licensed.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the request from Stephen F. Austin State University for a Doctor of Social Work, a DSW, in social work?
Yeah, based on their pledge to me that they're going to include good parenting, I move we adopt it.
May I have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5M3 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from Texas A&M University for a Bachelor's of Science in Data Engineering. Dr. Anthony Bergerigi, you can pronounce it when you get up here for me. Professor, Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering, and Dr. Louis Timo, Department Chair, Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering, are available to answer questions. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Texas A&M University is proposing a Bachelor of Science in Data Engineering. The proposed face-to-face program would train students to work with data, including handling, manipulation, mining, visualization, and storage methods that lead to optimal information and knowledge extraction to facilitate decision-making in complex systems. Based on staff research of undergraduate computer engineering programs, currently there are no other public institutions that offer a bachelor's level data engineering degree in Texas. The proposed program would be housed in the College of Engineering, consisting of 128 semester credit hours. The proposed program would be designed to prepare students for a wide range of data-centric careers in technology and engineering, consulting, science, policymaking, and communications. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, Texas A&M University would hire 1 core faculty member in years 1, 3, and 5 of the program. The institution will seek accreditation for the BS degree program. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Dr. Bernergy?
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Andy Banerjee, and I'm a professor and associate department head for undergraduate affairs in the William Michael Barnes class of 1964 Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering at Texas A&M. I've been with the university since 1999, and I'm here to represent our application for the Bachelor of Science in Data Engineering together with Professor and Department Head Dr. Louis Timo. We are both available to answer any questions that you may have. I just wanted to make a few more comments besides what was presented here in terms of the applicability of this program. So what we are looking at here is current and future real-world systems are extremely complex in nature, and there is an issue with decision-making, and it's an essential component in organizations that deploy these systems. And one of the hallmarks of these systems is the prevalence of sensors that are embedded in the system components, and these sensors are generating data at a very rapid pace, and we are all seeing this with all the devices that we are using nowadays. And there's a critical need to handle, store, manipulate, mine, and visualize this information that can be extracted from the data and be transformed into knowledge to remain competitive. And this is where we are seeking to have this program in there. The global information age, and it has resulted in this increased demand for technical skills required for storage and handling of data and the resulting information that comes out of it. And this process typically begins with data acquisition and management and continues with data analysis and knowledge extraction, and then proceeds to decision formulation and analysis using a variety of techniques that account for uncertainty and preferences over risk. And that's one of the emphasis areas here is dealing with uncertainty, noisy data, risk, preferences over risk, and all that. So this is a growing and unique need. And what we have also seen is some recent data that has been published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They show a significant growth in employment opportunities for trained graduates in this area between 2020 and 2030, in somewhere in the range of 30 to 40%, and most of the salaries are going to be 100,000 plus. And this field is expected to keep growing over the next few decades. This led us to this conception of creating this Bachelor of Science in Data Engineering. And I wanted to just also emphasize about the difference here between computer science and computer engineering. So in computer science and computer engineering, they deal with training students on primarily on software and hardware skills and their applications. Whereas the data engineering is an emerging field focused on transforming data into contextual information using quantitative and computational tools. And there is not a similar theme program at the undergraduate level in the state of Texas, and this proposed data engineering program will meet the growing unique need by training students in this much-needed skill sets that we discussed just now. That's kind of where we stand in terms of this particular program and how unique it is. Happy to answer any questions.
Hey, can you explain that to somebody who had no clue as to what you just said?
Absolutely. I'll try.
I can do that for you, Sam. No, go ahead.
What we are trying to do here is train students that can actually help analyze data that is coming from various streams. I mean, we see this every day. Let's say our phones, our refrigerators, everything that is connected in our household. We have our Nest thermostats and all that. How do we get all this information, the data together to get meaningful information out of it and help in the decision-making process, keeping in mind that there could be noisy data, there could be faulty sensors, there could be issues related to reliability. Is the data accurate or not? How do we process this? How do we handle it? How do we analyze it and come up with good decision-making abilities so that organizations can use that information and the data to the best possible extent for better decision-making? That's what we are looking for.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of demand in data analysis and data engineering. So currently, the employer is hiring physicists, that's sufficient, and
yes.
Electrical engineering and computer engineering, computer science. And
yes.
A lot of they can choose a lot of graduates.
Yes.
So how can your program? It's a bachelor degree. It's not a master program. It's a PhD. So how can the employer can get a physicist and still achieve what the job requires in terms of data analysis?
Okay.
So your program is a bachelor degree. How can you differentiate that your program will generate? I wouldn't say better employee or or better trained person to deal with the big data that currently right now the entire country require, the industry require. So what is the emphasis in terms of classes, in terms of courses, in terms of the emphasis that you can have a better training in data analysis?
Very good question. So what we are emphasizing here are basically I'm calling it the three-legged stool. We are emphasizing the use of math and especially the use of calculus, linear algebra, and differential equations. That's the core component, along with computational capability, writing good pieces of code, how you can analyze the data, and couple that with probability and statistics. That's where all the risk-based analysis and all these things come in. How do you integrate all three of them together along with the other skills, for instance, communications? How do you communicate your findings to a layperson? How do you show what you are getting? I mean, it could be a bunch of numbers and charts and all that, but how do you relay that information to others who may not be knowledgeable about it? They know the business, but they don't know what is exactly the data is telling you. So what we intend to do is prepare students with this technical background, along with the writing, communications, other skills, to basically be prepared to join the workforce. And a lot of companies are telling us we need 4-year graduates who have the ability to do this. We should not be going and looking for PhDs and master's students to perform these tasks, because this is become so pervasive over different departments within an organization. They are looking for skill sets that students can actually use, which is not just programming or not just hardware, which is more of an emphasis on computer science, computer engineering program. They're trying to look at this holistic view of looking at how to analyze data and present that information in a meaningful format, and that's what we are emphasizing here.
So it's a branch of industrial engineering. That's what you.
It is housed here. It is
how
yeah.
you build this. You are going to build this program under the industrial engineering and build it
Yes.
up that way. Okay.
It is housed under industrial engineering with participation from statistics, computer science, electrical engineering, and others.
Got it. The different institutions may have different approach, but that's
Correct.
what you're proposing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So at Texas A&M, is it housed computer science, housed under the College of Natural Sciences versus engineering, and will the data engineering program you're proposing be under the engineering school? Or
No, at
different college?
At Texas A&M College, computer science and computer engineering is housed in the College of Engineering.
Okay, because different schools do it different ways. Because I'm very familiar with.
The option, yes,
which I sit on an advisory board.
Yes,
and it's separated, and it's kind of interesting. So it's combined.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And they agreed. I mean, they even are fully supportive of this. You can see that in part of your packet in terms of how we distinguish ourselves, but we are going to get help from them. And they participated in the development of the program also.
Right. So Ms. Mayer, when she started her presentation, she said this is the only program for public universities. Is there any private university, or is that just the way you just brought it up? Is there a private university, I didn't see in the packet, that currently hosts the program? Okay.
I don't think so. I don't know if you all know.
I don't think there is even a private university that offers it at the undergraduate level.
Okay. Thank you.
We skipped Dr. Imo. Would you like to make comments?
I would just like to say thank you so much for the board for giving us the opportunity and present this new Bachelor of Science degree in data engineering. I strongly believe that this is going to be a game changer going forward, especially in the field of engineering.
One question I have is, will cybersecurity be a part of the curricula?
Yes, one of the electives we are working towards developing will be part of the cybersecurity side of it. It's also Industry 4.0. So there are all these elements that tie in there, which would be a nice, diverse set of electives that we intend to have in this program.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and I hate to be the guy that's running this thing long, but my question is for Elizabeth. I'm looking on page 3. It says the student demand is moderate. The answer to every question is no. So I'm trying to figure out how you guys categorize things as weak, moderate, strong, whatever, when the answer to every question, increased enrollment in related programs at the indication, no, we haven't seen that. We hadn't seen high enrollment at other institutions. We hadn't seen applicants turned away. Students aren't asking for it. So why is the demand moderate?
I am going to ask the program director who worked on this to step forward.
Well, and the reason I'm asking this is, I think as a board, we don't get down in the weeds, and
Sure.
we generally trust your recommendation.
Sure.
But I would just like to know how we determine whether there's strong or moderate or or weak needs, because that is counterintuitive.
Sure, sure.
While they're making their way up to answer, I would venture out to say it is probably no, because there's no other program to compare it to.
That was the criteria, yeah.
So, and the reason why it's
Probably be NA.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I'm just wondering how you guys come up
Right,
with this stuff.
and you know, engineering is something that there's always, it seems to be, individuals that can find, positions. But, for future, it sounds like the NA might be more,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just glad to know.
Yeah.
All seen students in your other 20 engineering programs come forward and say, hey, we would like another one?
We already have our first student who has said, whenever this program is ready, I would like to be student number one. But the answer is yes. We have done polls where we have looked at student preferences and all that. And the other thing we are also noticing that there are plenty of students that cannot get into computer science and computer engineering because of their capacity issues. And this would be another avenue available for students with similar interests that can actually get into this program.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the request from Texas A&M University for a Bachelor's of Science in Data Engineering?
So moved.
Been moved by Sam Torn. May I have a second? A second by Daniel Wong. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item 5M4 is consideration and possible action to approve a request from Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi for a Master of Science and MS in Engineering. Dr. L.D. Chin, Director of School of Engineering and Computing Sciences, and Dr. Daniel Bridges, Chair, Department of Engineering, are available to answer questions and comments. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and also be available to answer questions.
Texas A&M University Corpus Christi is proposing a Master of Science in Engineering. The proposed face-to-face program would prepare students to enter professional work requiring advanced knowledge and study in the engineering disciplines represented by the undergraduate engineering program at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Upon completion of the proposed degree, graduates would have a solid education in the fundamentals of engineering, as well as the specialized knowledge on current topics in the field, and would develop the skills necessary to maintain knowledge of the current state of the art in engineering, allowing for continuing career development. The proposed program would be housed in the College of Engineering and Computer Sciences and would consist of 36 semester credit hours. The proposed MS is designed to operate in conjunction with the 5-year BS to MS degree program in engineering at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Students are admitted into the joint program upon their junior year and then enter directly into the MS program upon completion of their senior year, taking courses during their senior year that are applied to both degrees, the bachelor's and the master's degrees. Currently, there are 9 public institutions and 3 private institutions that offer a master's level degree in engineering in Texas. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, Texas A&M Corpus Christi would hire 1 new core faculty member in year 3 of the program. That concludes my remarks.
Dr. Bridges.
Thank you for this opportunity to come discuss our program. I'm David Bridges. I'm the chair of the Department of Engineering at A&M Corpus Christi. I've been the chair since the fall of 2015. We are specifically targeting a Master of Science in Engineering because it reflects our program. It reflects our department. We are a Department of Engineering, relatively small compared to, say, Texas A&M. We have 15 tenure track faculty right now, tenure track. We added 1 this week. I was able to make a faculty applicant very happy with a phone call. And then we're going to add at least 2 more in the next year or 2 as we expand our industrial engineering program, phasing that in. So we're a small program, but we are a single department. We have programs in engineering under the Department of Engineering. When our faculty meet, they meet as a department. This facilitates interdisciplinary work. Right now, I'm working on a proposal with one of our civil engineering faculty to do some bridge aerodynamics work. So we believe that will extend into the master's program. The master's program will have concentrations in the disciplines, but there'll be flexibility in terms of who can be on the committee. So an industrial engineering student might be doing something on human factors, human system interaction. Might be useful to have someone in mechatronics field or committee. So that will be easily facilitated by the fact that we're a single department. So that's why we're basically looking at a Master of Science in Engineering as opposed to one in one of the specific disciplines. We think we have a program that addresses the needs of our students, our community, our state, and our faculty, who I can say are taking extreme interest in the outcomes of these meetings today and tomorrow. And with that, we'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Dr. Cheese?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just delighted to have this opportunity to present Master of Science in Engineering program. Like what David commented earlier, the program serves our students and also serves the university to continue our growth in R&D and serves our community. If you look at our community right now, looking into the Port of Corpus Christi, major initiatives, whether it's blue hydrogen or green hydrogen, that will require deep knowledge in technology development, the science and engineering behind it, and we have faculty looking into process engineering, certainly can support that. And also, if you come to our campus, you will see, not in the summer students are out, and summer students actually working with our faculty. Now they went to national lab, DC, Langley, and government labs. And so during long semesters, come to our campus, visit engineering lab. You will see 5, 6 students working with faculty, doing really experiential learning, putting things together, whether it is a drone related to research or lab on a chip, looking into biomedical type of research, or looking into new energy platform instead of lithium-ion, maybe looking into mental air battery. So really it's a vibrant research environment, and we are so pleased to have an opportunity, if approved, provide our students basically a pathway getting into master's degree program and perhaps getting into a PhD program, perhaps become faculty. And right now we know there is a shortage of faculty from, say, minority, underrepresented group, Hispanic, or African American, Native American. So we really like to recruit students getting into the program. And I'm also pleased to report we were fortunate to have the support from the National Science Foundation, Center of Research Excellence in Science and Technology, that will help us to support recruitment of students. It's a 5-year grant, $4.995 million, supporting engineering, primary engineering and computer science. Thank you for this opportunity to meet with you, and perhaps I can answer questions you may have.
Members, any questions?
I do have a quick question, just out of curiosity, why you have decided not to accredit your program at all?
Let me answer that. All right, so currently 0 master's degree programs in engineering nationwide is accredited, none. Okay? ABET Accreditation Board for Science Technology, the one program was accredited, that was Arkansas, Transportation Engineering, but that accreditation discontinued in, I think, 2009. So basically, there's no accredited Masters of Science in Engineering program, accredited by ESC, Engineering Accreditation Commission, as of today. So, yeah, so.
It's just not common practice.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi for a Master's of Science and MS in Engineering?
Move.
Motion made by Emma Swartz. May I have a second? Second, Daniel Wong. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. You can relax now. Agenda item 5M. 5 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at Arlington for a Bachelor's of Science, a BS, in Resources and Energy Engineering. Dr. Paul J. Combination, Interim Associate Dean of Graduate and Interdisciplinary Affairs and Chair, Industrial Manufacturing and System Engineering, is available to answer questions and comments. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Elizabeth?
University of Texas at Arlington is seeking approval to offer a Bachelor of Science degree program in Resources and Energy Engineering, which would be the first program of its kind in the nation. Curriculum will not only cover the emerging alternative energy sources where future research and energy jobs will increasingly be concentrated, but it will also include the equally important topics of economics, public policy, and consumer perception surrounding the transition to renewable energy resources. The proposed program would require 124 semester credit hours. The 4 hours beyond the traditional 120 semester credit hour degree plan is because 4 of the required mathematics, science, and engineering fundamentals courses are 4 semester credit hours each. The proposed program would be offered face-to-face to students in Arlington. Job market demand appears strong, although it is difficult to quantify job market demand precisely because energy engineering is not yet tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics or the Texas Workforce Commission. A survey from 2016 found that 73% of U.S. employers indicated difficulty in hiring qualified workers in energy engineering fields. Similarly, in Texas, an average of 58% of employers indicated difficulty in hiring qualified workers. The curriculum would also prepare graduates for other careers in energy management, public policy, and business related to alternative energy. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, UT Arlington will hire 2 core faculty members, 1 in each of the 3rd and 4th years. That concludes my remarks.
One more time. Thank you for entertaining our proposal. One of the things we've noticed at UT Arlington over the last years is an increased number of our undergraduates who are going into fields related to energy or energy engineering. As a note, we don't have a chemical engineering or petroleum engineering program, but yet we are putting a surprising number of graduates in fields related to energy. We were approached by some of our regional employers and also by the advisory board at the university to look at developing a program which was more broad-based. Some gentleman who talked to us mentioned saying, I can find at a good price a really good engineer who understands the wellhead and everything I need to do. Where I have a real challenge is understanding and hiring engineers who have a systems-oriented approach, folks who can understand both what is going to continue to be important in Texas, our traditional fossil fuels, and renewable energy, how to take those two, combine them efficiently, economically, collect the energy, distribute it, store it, and manage those systems. So that is what this program is designed to do. Specifically at the bachelor's level, it is unique in that it requires students to take courses in all those different domains,
as well as programs that are heavily based on optimization, statistics, data science, so they'll be able to manage the complex systems we have dealing with energy. And I'm glad to answer any questions you might have on the program.
Any questions?
I do have a question, actually. Very interesting to see just today with those new frontier engineering, all this is we never really heard about, but, you know, all engineering school is focused on very specific now, instead of having a, say, chemical engineer just throw in a few courses about wellhead and or alternative energy, and then he or she become those, you know, available candidate for those company. But seems like, you know, it's just more focused now. And so from that perspective, my question is it's still a bachelor degree, okay? Right? So it's not a master, it's a PhD. In the past, it's really for those specific engineering requirements. You go to master, and then you focus on that, and then the employer will hire you. But now it's all bachelor degree. So how? My question is the same way. How do you? You mentioned a little bit. How do you differentiate a graduate from this particular program will be more attractive, say, you know, hired by, you know, Chevron or Technip or those energy company, rather than a regular chemical engineer or industrial engineer? That they can they still hire those people to do exactly the same thing that you're talking about, but right now they're hiring those people. But now you are proposing a program that you think is better. The graduate will be better to suit those employers, so that they will have a better engineer to serve them. So how do your program differentiate from the traditional engineering program that, you know, train those engineers to do the exactly same task?
I wouldn't say better engineers. I would say different engineers. One of the things we find is the skill sets we need are very broad. A lot of our traditional engineering programs really try to make you an expert in a particular domain. And an engineer in those fields might spend quite a large part of his career in that domain before perhaps going into management later on. What we're proposing to do is to give someone who would not start at a specific domain. I would not see our graduates replacing or someone from a traditional program such as petroleum. Rather, they would be hired more at the systems or the corporate level, where they would be doing issues such as Encore Power, who talked to us. Encore Power doesn't collect the energy, they distribute it. So one of the challenges they faced in their operation is, how do I draw energy sources from multiple different domains, understanding the economics of all of those domains? How do I pull it together, transport it, and store it? How do I distribute it? So those are what we're trying to put more of a focus on, is not necessarily the creation of the energy, but more of how do I manage grid? How do I deal with public policy? How do I deal with economics? And of course, there are some areas where we have a lot of cultural influences too, where people prefer one type of energy over another. How do I incorporate that all together to help a company be effective in collecting and distributing power?
Your new program will have, compared to the traditional engineering program, will have more in terms of maybe financial analysis, management, and things like that nature?
Yes, we put, as all engineering does, we do have emphasis on calculus, but we put a lot of emphasis too on statistics, on math modeling, operations research, simulation, and data science, because one thing we know is that's going to be a critical skill for all of our engineers in the future.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Arlington for a Bachelor's of Science, a BS in Resource and Energy Engineering?
So moved.
A motion by Sam Torn. May I have a second? Second. And second by Daniel Wong. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5M6 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at El Paso for a Bachelor's of Science, a BS in Computer Engineering. Dr. Michael McGurry, Associate Professor, Electrical and Computer Engineering, and Dr. Virgilio Gonzalez, Associate Chair in Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, and Dr. Miguel Valdez Reyes, I think I said that right, Chair, Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, are available for questions and comments. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Elizabeth?
The University of Texas at El Paso is proposing a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering. The proposed face-to-face program would be offered at UTEP's main campus in El Paso and would offer students an additional option for pursuing an engineering degree and serve as a pipeline for graduate studies in engineering. UTEP states there is a need for computer engineers in the region. The proposed program would be housed in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering and would consist of 128 semester credit hours. Currently, there are 12 public institutions that offer a bachelor's level computer engineering degree in Texas. Currently, the closest public institution that offers a computer engineering program is the University of New Mexico, which is 265 miles away from UTEP and is out of state. In the state of Texas, the closest public institution is Texas Tech University, which is 316 miles away. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, UTEP would hire one new core faculty member in each of years 1, 2, and 4 of the program. The institution will seek accreditation from the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, or ABET, for its BS degree program after the first graduating cohort. And that.
Thank you. Start with Dr. McGarry.
Morning, everybody. It is an extreme pleasure to be here to talk to you about our proposed BS in Computer Engineering. We're very pleased at the prospect of being able to offer this as soon as this fall, as we have many students internally that are very interested in computer engineering, and we've been accommodating them for many years with a concentration in computer engineering. Now, by having this degree program, the students will be able to focus on computer engineering and then have a degree that more accurately reflects interests. Also, if this program is approved, as Elizabeth was mentioning, it will be the first or the only BS in Computer Engineering degree program within the nearly 300-mile radius of El Paso. As Elizabeth pointed out, the closest program is actually at the University of New Mexico, and even that's 265 miles away. It's not until we get to Texas Tech, that's over 300 miles away, that we have the BS in Computer Engineering program. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about our proposed program.
Gonzalez, would you like to make comments?
Thank you for the board and the committee members for this opportunity. We are also very pleased with the proposal, and we have the opportunity to leverage many of the resources that we already have in the department, given that we are offering a BS in electrical engineering, and many of the laboratories, the faculty, and other resources are already available, so that will help us leverage our existing curriculum, other resources to help our students. And for the accreditation purpose, the process that we already have in place for our electrical engineering program will be adapted to satisfy the computer engineering program very quickly.
Dr. Valdez.
Thank you all for the opportunity to present. I just want to emphasize the support that the department has for the implementation of this program. This is provide this opportunity to our students in the region. As mentioned by my colleagues, we have had the opportunity to offer some computer engineering preparation as part of option within the electrical engineering program. However, the students don't get the depth of knowledge that they will have as an opportunity getting a proper computer engineering degree. So they will have the right depth of preparation, but also the right credentials for.
Any questions?
I have a comment. Thank you all for bringing the proposal. I think for, just for the radius and the region of the state, I think it's really important for a lot of students that, may not be able to travel, but, to be able to get the quality of this degree in the region of the state. So I think that's very.
I would like to comment again the same thing that seems like I applaud for that, getting that bachelor degree. You already have a master's degree in computer engineering, so it's very natural for the student to continue to have that track onto. But what I'm saying is, seems like in terms of engineering, we're more focused now in terms of very specific. Even though it's a bachelor degree, I think the bachelor degree is supposed to be very generally trained, but now we are we're really focused on them. Like I said, the employer is hiring your electrical engineering student to achieve the goal of the computer engineering right now. But now you have a computer engineering program that the employer will be more specific in terms of knowing that they're well trained in very specific tasks instead of just very broadly electrical engineering. I don't know if it's good or bad in the sense of the student right now is, you have to, you have a computer engineering, so you kind of label, when you get out, you want to find job in that not narrow field, but in that field instead of, I'm electrical engineering, engineering graduate, I can get computer engineering, I can get, network, I can get all the other, in the past is everything. I think, like 50 years ago, there's no engineering, so you have physics, speech, engineering. So I can see the field is kind of narrow down in terms of, I can see more and more programs in the future. They're coming in to ask for, very specific program, and we keep on. I think that's a trend, and as an engineering educator, we see the trend, and we need to accommodate. We need to, at the same time, we need to be cognizant that in terms of really training our students, that they are well trained in just that field, as well as they understand that they in the bachelor degree, they also I don't want to say a generalist, but they still be able to kind of do other things instead of saying I can only do this thing. So, but I applaud, like I said, to really continuing to offer more choices, a more specific program for our students, and easy to develop a new program. So I for doing all this. But
do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at El Paso for a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Engineering? Motion made by Emma Swartz. May I have a second? Second by Sam Torn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item 5M7 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley for a Master's of Science and MS in Biomedical Engineering. Dr. Jana Arney, Executive Vice President and Provost, and Dr. Ala Kubo, Dean of College of Engineering and Computer Science, are available to answer questions. Elizabeth will present this item and be available to answer questions.
The University of Texas Rio Grande Valley is proposing a Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering. The proposed face-to-face program is intended for post-baccalaureate students in degree areas such as engineering, health, science, and medicine who are interested in a career in industry or biomedical research. The program will provide advanced training in the science of biomedicine and engineering. The proposed program would be housed in the Department of Mechanical Engineering within the College of Engineering and Computing Sciences and would consist of 30 semester credit hours. The program would provide advanced training in the science of biomedicine and engineering. Upon completion of the program, students would be qualified to work in biotechnology, pharmaceutical, and medical device industries, as well as in hospitals, medical research facilities, and government regulatory agencies. Graduates would also be well qualified to enter doctoral programs in a variety of engineering disciplines. Currently, there are no existing master's biomedical engineering programs in the Rio Grande Valley region. The closest institution is in San Antonio, which is 245 miles away, and as was mentioned in the previous, this would serve predominantly place-bound students. And currently there are 17 institutions that offer a master's level biomedical engineering degree in Texas. The accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, UTRGV would hire 1 new core faculty member in years 2, 4, and 5 of the program.
Much, Madam Chair, and thanks for allowing us to be here today and present our proposal to you. Yes, this will be housed in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, and our dean is with us here today, Dr. Kabash. But it's really designed to be an interdisciplinary degree and really builds on the strengths that UTRGV has with our School of Medicine, now our School of Podiatry. Thank you for the opportunity to offer that, and we're on track for this summer. And then our many, many disciplines out of our College of Science. And so under Dr. Kabash's leadership, we've been able to really design this, we believe, to be unique in that students who will be able to pursue this will not just come from an engineering undergrad degree, but will also be open to students who come from a variety of health areas, but also the sciences and medicine. Anybody who's interested with the preparation for a career in biomedical industry and or research. Another unique aspect of the master's, the way it's designed, is that there's a common core, but then there's 3 pathways for students to pursue: biomechanics, biomaterials, and biomedical manufacturing. And the latter is only one of 2. We offer one of 2 undergraduates in biomedical manufacturing. So that's a research-focused area for us, and so it really provides a nice pathway for that undergraduate student to go into this master's. In addition, as I mentioned, it builds on the variety of the different disciplines and really specifics on all of that. Since Dr. Kabash wrote it, he will be able to answer all of those questions for you. But I also wanted to send Dr. Bailey's regards. He would be here, but it's particularly relevant for me to bring this up because I don't know if you know this or not, but he's recovering from his 2nd hip replacement surgery. Very anxious for the graduates of this program to be able to really help advance the surgery options for future generations. So it's a personal program for us in that regard. But I'm sure he's watching and appreciates your support. And I will turn it over for any questions that you have.
Dr. Kabash.
Thank you, Dr. Arnie. This is personal to our president, as you've heard. So no, many students have been asking us about this program. I'm really excited about, especially the synergies it brings with the School of Medicine, the School of Podiatry, the School of Pharmacy. As you know, the Rio Grande Valley, the School of Medicine have been a big changer there, and many pharmaceutical companies, medical companies are moving, and we want to prepare the students right in the Rio Grande Valley because it will be really hard for them, as Dr. Farias knows, to come from the outside. And one of our missions at the university to keep the talents there, like one of the programs, the Luminary Scholar Program, which is it's the only one in the nation where basically we offer the students from the high school a full ride all the way to get a graduate degree, like this graduate degree. But actually, Dr. Bailey and the university put for them one condition. They have to stay there in the Rio Grande Valley and work for 2 years, to give that. So this really aligns with our, strengths in the health as well as advanced manufacturing and also our mission to retain the talents we have in the Rio Grande Valley. Thank you.
Sure, Dr. Guy Bailey. Hello, Dr. Bailey is watching. He did personally call me, so thank you, Dr. Bailey, and we wish you a speedy recovery. Thank you, Dr. Arnie and Dr. Kabash, for being here as well. Of course, have been kept up. The program has been very well organized, and it will be a great complement to what's happening with the health science area and engineering. It's in the Rio Grande Valley not only, but all of South Texas and affecting all of Texas with, as you say, future innovations and improvements that come out that'll help everyone, all of society. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for the proposal.
Any additional comments, questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley for a Master's of Science and MS in Biomedical Engineering?
A motion. I make the motion.
Motion made by Fred Frias. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Made by Emma Swartz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Agenda item 5M8 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at San Antonio for a Master's of Science, an MS in Aerospace Engineering. Dr. Ender Phenol, Chair, Department of Mechanical Engineering, and Dr. Christopher Combs, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, are available for questions and comments. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Elizabeth?
University of Texas at San Antonio is seeking approval to offer a Master of Science degree program in aerospace engineering. The curriculum would train students to define and analyze aerospace problems using mathematical or experimental models from scientific and engineering principles. There are options for both thesis and non-thesis students. The proposed program would require 30 semester credit hours. The proposed program would be offered face-to-face to students in San Antonio. Job market demand is strong. In Texas, the MC database showed 939 job advertisements for aerospace engineering jobs throughout 2021 and 94 in the San Antonio, New Braunfels region. There are 107 MS graduates in aerospace engineering in Texas public programs in 2021, well below the projected job demand. Continued job demand can be expected from the recent arrival of SpaceX and Blue Origin and their related industries in the El Paso and Brownsville regions, which will likely continue to create new and replacement aerospace engineering positions in the Upper Rio Grande and South Texas regions. No new faculty are expected to be hired, and the institution will seek accreditation for its aerospace engineering degree program from ABET upon the graduation of its first. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Dr. Combs, Dr. Phenol, I'd like to go first. Flipper Cohen.
Good morning. I've been a department chair for mechanical engineering for the last 10 months, and I'm going to speak a little bit about the size of the department. We're the largest department within the College of Engineering at UTSA. We have approximately 30 faculty. We've been hiring in this area of aerospace engineering. Budgets. Fall of 2018, we were hired Dr. Chris Combs, who was extremely successful in terms of another faculty member in the fall of 2020, and most recently we we have approximately 1,000 undergraduate students, bachelor's, master's, and their master's program in advanced manufacturing engineering. We have 80 and 100 master's students. So this new program that we're proposing would certainly demand that we have here for this. One good indicator of the need for the program, which is also have a certificate program in aerospace engineering. The last 2 years it has been our most popular certificate program. But, because of the jobs in that area, and they need to advance in that degree.
All right. Thank you all for having us here today and for considering our proposal. I have, as Dr. Phenol said, been working at ETSA to build up this aerospace program for the last few years, and without a doubt, Texas is the #1 state in the U.S. for aerospace. The industry here is enormous, and considering that, the demand for aerospace graduates, especially in San Antonio, is immense, as you've seen in the proposal. I mean, the fact that there are 94 job postings in San Antonio area in 2021 in aerospace, and there's not a single program in our region right now. So we really are, this proposal is coming out of a response to need that we are seeing firsthand. And I'm a member of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, the Aerospace Committee, and these are comments that I'm getting every time we meet. When are your students graduating? Are you going to have new degree programs? We're looking to hire aerospace engineers, and they want desperately to hire locally, but they are not able to right now because those students just don't exist. Thankfully, we have had a lot of success building things up at UTSA. We've been bringing in graduate students. My research is in aerospace engineering. I do hypersonics. We built a world-class Mach 7 hypersonic wind tunnel recently that has brought in a ton of interest. And when you talk about rockets and airplanes and space, that's an easy way to get students excited and get them into a program and then train them into STEM and technical careers. So we've put ourselves in a position with all of this and with some recent faculty hires after I joined on to really just hit the ground running and flip a switch and start this program as soon as it's hopefully approved. So we're excited about what we've built up so far at UTSA. We're looking to continue to grow this program in a bunch of different directions, and we are happy to answer any questions you have.
Great. Dr. Fennell, you mentioned you just started at UTSA 10 months ago?
I've been department chair for 10 months, but I've been at UTSA for 11
How long have you been at UTSA?
11 years.
Okay, great. So, and for Dr. Combs, I'm a member of my local Chamber of Commerce and commissioner, and it gets around the state, and we've gone together, and there's no better way to listen to what's needed. So I'm glad to hear, that you're very involved with the Chamber in San Antonio, and really listening to the economic development folks and the Chamber of Commerce business community on what the needs are. And that's what we all need to know in higher education. As the tri-agency, tomorrow our board meeting, our big policy discussion will be on that. The commissioner and Mike Morath, the commissioner of public education in the state, and the chair of the workforce commission will be presenting on that. But that's so important because as this committee and this board looks at what the needs are, that's where it all begins. Where are the opportunities? Where are the needs? How do we connect those programs to have meet the challenges for jobs and having good outcomes and providing our students, our citizens to get good jobs, to have a good economy in our state. So that's how it all ties, the big picture, how it ties in. So thank you for keeping your pulse on the community and the needs. And on a personal note, I live in the Rio Grande Valley in McAllen, and SpaceX is booming. And the needs, as you probably know, and hear of the students and the people looking for jobs in aerospace engineering, and you're exactly right, Texas is in the lead, and there's so much going on in aerospace engineering. So thank you for the work that y'all do at UTSA, and thank you for bringing proposals like this one to the board.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Question just for my own curiosity as well, and because the aerospace market is still not very big, why don't we have a bachelor degree in aerospace?
Well, that's something that is a goal down the road, and this was honestly the first logical step we thought was to get the master's degree program because we have everything in place basically to do it today. A bachelor's degree program, we have been working on we have an undergraduate certificate, but probably the biggest hurdle is we would need a proper undergraduate aero lab class, and there's also, to really have a well-rounded aerospace program at the undergraduate level, you probably need some sort of space track where someone's doing satellites and orbital mechanics and things like that. We don't have that faculty member in place right now, but that's probably something that we would like to do in the near future.
So that will be the first program in the nation, is that right, if that is a bachelor?
Oh, no.
In the region. Maybe in Texas, maybe.
No, not in Texas. I mean, so I got my PhD at UT Austin. They've got UT and A&M both have top 10 aerospace engineering programs. But we definitely, as you can see from some of the demand analysis and from some of the geographic analysis, we are the only program south of Austin in the state, and we're also the only one west of Austin in the state. When you think about the geography of Texas, that's kind of remarkable. So it just illustrates how big that need is.
Anyone else? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at San Antonio for a Master's of Science, an MS, in Aerospace Engineering? Okay. All right, I have a motion made by Daniel Wong and seconded by Fred Frias there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5M9 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at Tyler for a Bachelor's of Science, a BS in Computer Engineering. Dr. Javier Capuros, Dean, College of Engineering, and Dr. Hassan El-Kishki, Chair, Department of Electrical Engineering, are available for questions and comments. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Elizabeth?
The University of Texas at Tyler is proposing a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering. The proposed face-to-face program would be offered at the University of Texas at Tyler's main campus and the UT Tyler Houston Engineering Center located in Houston, and would offer students an additional option for pursuing an engineering degree. There is a need for computer engineers in the region of Tyler and in the East Texas region. Currently, the closest public institution that offers a computer engineering program is the University of Texas at Dallas, which is 109 miles away from Tyler. The proposed computer engineering program is in addition to the existing electrical engineering degree at the institution, and would be comprised of some courses already being taught for the existing electrical engineering degree. The proposed program would be housed in the Department of Electrical Engineering and would consist of 128 semester credit hours. The proposed program would be designed to prepare students in computer hardware, computer software, and embedded systems, which is a combination of computer hardware and software that involves developing a computer system by combining existing computer chips and then programming the developed system to function as desired. The program, currently there are 12 public institutions that offer a bachelor's level computer engineering degree in Texas. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, UT Tyler would hire 2 new core faculty members in year 1 and 1 new core faculty in year 2 of the program. The institution will also seek accreditation for its BS degree program from ABET. Remarks.
Rose.
Madam Chair, committee members, Commissioner, thank you for your time and consideration. I'm sure you may have taken note, you probably heard Houston. What does Houston have to do with UT Tyler? Well, I thought I'd give you a little overview of the college. We are the only comprehensive college of engineering that is east of DFW or north of Greater Houston. We are the only college of engineering in either North Texas or East Texas that has chemical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering. We also have construction management. We are very different than other colleges of engineering in the state. We're approximately 80% transfer. So we pull our students from 2-year institutions around East Texas, from the largest community college systems in either DFW or Houston. Work very actively with those schools and have ongoing relationships and developing agreements. Our present partnership with Houston Community College is where we have our Houston Engineering Center at the HCC A-Leaf campus. Also, the second floor of that building is actually us. We offer presently there our construction management, civil engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering programs at the bachelor's level, and our electrical, civil, and mechanical master's level degrees. So we're hoping to add there and at our main campus, computer engineering. So we pride ourselves on being very intentional about being able to provide pathways for students from 2 years to our degree programs. And in fact, for those students at HCC, that pathway, they realistically can complete a 4-year degree in under $30,000. Now, there was questions about why we're becoming more narrow. We worked very hard to have what I consider and many engineers consider the 4 primary disciplines of engineering, which are chemical, civil, mechanical, and electrical. And we did so with the intent and the ability that we could be flexible, and as opportunities and needs arose in the job market, we would be able to offer sub-disciplines. And why focus on computer engineering in particular? Well, a lot of it has to do with what we are hearing from industry. Also, it has to do with what we're hearing from prospective students, the areas that they want to grow and be able to have careers, and a lot of that comes in the intersection of science and electrical engineering. But I leave those details to my colleague and department chair for electrical engineering, Dr. Elkishki, to discuss in more detail.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Kiporos mentioned we had a concentration in the department for a number of years, a concentration in computer engineering, and from the high demand and the popularity of the concentration, we looked at the resources we have and we felt this might be the time to start planning to have the new computer engineering program added. So basically, we, like Dr. Kapoor mentioned, kind of like the closest computer engineering program is nearly 110 miles west of us, which is UT Dallas, and being at short driving distance from major metropolitans like Houston and the DFW area, as well as Austin. This will put us in a position not only serve the East Texas area and develop the economy in the East Texas region and attract kind of high-tech industry to the East Texas region, but also give us the opportunity to fill in jobs at the big metros in the Houston and Austin, as well as in the DFW area. When we designed the program, we designed it with what Dr. Kapoor mentioned in mind, which is being kind of like a transfer-friendly institution. So basically, our program will be kind of like easily accessible to students who are finishing their associate degrees in the many junior colleges in the East Texas area or around the state. The other kind of like strength that we consider in our computer engineering program is the fact that we have multiple faculty members on the roster who really kind of like have expertise in research as well as teaching, and we have the lab facilities that will allow us to start that program kind of like at the pace that we would like to populate that program. We expect kind of like from the surveys we have from students from open houses when we receive high school students visiting the university, we normally kind of like get these kind of like surveys filled out, and many of those students would ask and inquire about computer engineering. Combining this with the concentration and the popularity of that concentration and the fact that we have faculty with expertise in relevant areas to computer engineering, we felt that kind of like this East Texas region would need a computer engineering program to start attracting high-tech industry. And the present industry is just a short distance drive from Tyler, from East Texas. So we have defense industry like L3Harris, we have Raytheon, we have Lockheed Martin on both sides, whether in Lufkin or in the DFW area. We have TI, we have the solid state industry. We have in our backyard in Tyler, SPEA America, and we have our industry board who are kind of inquiring when we're going to be able to start that program, and so we can place some of our graduates in their companies.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Two questions. The first one is, as I look at the map, you mentioned Southern Methodist University, SMU, is a private school, and they're close. The LeTourneau University is an independent university, right? And they also have a program, correct?
They do not have a program in computer engineering.
Not in computer engineering.
Okay. Well, in our map, the staff gave us, well, that's why I wanted to ask that question. I'm reading this information correctly on page. Have page. Okay, well, we'll look into that, Elizabeth.
I'll check with the staff.
That wasn't brought up, but I was curious about that. The second thing is, what are your numbers of your campus? So I didn't know, I know a lot about UT Tyler, obviously, looking at the medical school and all the great programs you have. About the Houston program, what are your enrollment numbers there versus, in...
We're very proud of that. If you look at Houston Community College, they have 3 academies. We don't consider our model an academy model because students don't start with HCC and then go somewhere else. Start there and they go upstairs. They finish there. We've had upwards to 400 students there. My understanding is the academy, the A&M Chevron Academy, probably is on the order of about 100 students, I think. 80. We are probably larger than those. We're roughly a 60-40 split between our main campus and the Houston campus. Approximately 70-some-odd% of our main campus students are transfers. We get about 100 to 120 first-time in college freshmen at our main campus in the college. And then in Houston, 100% of our students are transfers.
Any of the classes online?
There are a few. We share the faculty across both campuses, so when the pandemic came along, we were probably more ready than most. Since we have faculty with certain expertise, a lot of our technical electives are taught synchronously. There's very few classes, maybe 1 or 2 in electrical that are offered online.
Yes, we have normally like 1 to 2 electives normally shared between the Houston campus and the main campus in Tyler.
But purely online is just...
Not pure online, it's just kind of like... Yeah, it's hybrid.
Mm-hmm. We have a full duplication of facilities at both campuses and faculty distributed across both. All the foundational courses are taught in person, face-to-face, and through shared...
Any additional questions or comments?
Just to clarify, Mr. Martinez, LeTourneau does have a program. We just verified that they do, in fact, have.
But to your question, is very small.
Evan, could you put your microphone on, please?
I was just saying, okay, I just wanted to say, because, the way it's been
I made the comment about chemical engineering. There is no chemical engineering. You have to go all the way west to Texas Tech, up to Oklahoma, over to Louisiana Tech, down to A&M Greater Houston to find a chemical engineering. When I made the comment about the comprehensive College of Engineering, I'm referring to the 4 primary disciplines in engineering, which are chemical, civil, electrical. There is no other school in either North or East Texas, unless you consider Lamar, which is in Beaumont. All 4 of those primary disciplines.
This particular program was what I was comparing to, and that's what I wanted to make sure
probably that part of their electrical is...
I think they have a general engineering program that has tracks, that has multiple tracks in it. I wasn't aware that they had or added engineering.
Listed in our program inventory separately.
Right. Okay. No, just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Yes. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Tyler for a Bachelor's of Science, a BS in Computer Engineering? I have a motion.
I'll move.
Moved by Emma Swartz. Do I have a second? Second by Fred Frias. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations. Agenda item 5N is lunch. The committee will now break for lunch. No public business or public policy over which the board has supervision or control will be discussed. We will intend to convene at, say, 1:10.
Test, test, test. Can you hear me through that? Test, test, test. Test, test.
Okay. All righty. We will start at agenda item 5.0 is consideration and possible action to adopt a new board rule 21.50 through 21.55 concerning the Texas First Early High School Completion Program and new board rules 22.550 through 22.556 concerning the Texas First Scholarship Program. Dr. Jenny L. Struthers, Assistant Commissioner for Student Success, and Dr. Charles Conterputos, Assistant Commissioner for Student Financial Aid Programs, will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, members. I'm Jenny L. Strother, and I am the Assistant Commissioner for Student Success. I am co-presenting with my colleague, Dr. Conterputos, and we are presenting on the Texas First program. So I will give you just kind of some updates on the actual program and policy, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague where he will discuss the financial aid portion. So as you recall, my colleagues at the last board meeting presented on this program, and this, next slide, please. And this program was created as SB 1888, and it was in response to our nearly 6,000 Texas students that we're losing. These are our high-performing students, in particular and those students are in particular with our historically underrepresented populations. This program will also contribute to us meeting our equity goals with building a talent-strong Texas. Slide, please. This program allows students to graduate early and receive a one-year Texas Grant scholarship. It will also, as this program offers new opportunities, it's really important, the outreach is really important to educate our families, our students, and our school districts. Some of the key activities that we will be executing on in our statewide outreach campaign is that we are partnering with our fellow Texas On-Course colleagues to create advisor modules that will go into the school districts. We will also host a statewide webinar. We will have various informational brochures. We will also have a joint printable document published to both TEA and THECB websites. TEA will also be working with school districts to ensure that they inform all entering ninth graders and their families in this program so that counselors have time to identify and work with students and those so that they can self-identify as wanting to graduate early. The commissioner used this example, and it really resonated with me. When students identify early, or we are able to identify early as high achieving, it is really important to outreach to them early in their high school career to let them know that we want them in Texas, we want them in our Texas universities, and communicate and show them that path forward. And that's what this program does. What we are voting on today is the student eligibility rules, and as outlined in statute, agency staff collaborated with enrollment and admissions leadership and eligible institutions and with TEA staff to craft the proposed rules establishing the eligibility for the diploma. Eligibility addresses both overall academic knowledge and skills, but also by specific subject areas as per statute. That's high school GPA, credits earned, and also it aligns with our TSI and our Texas Grant eligibility. At this time, I'd love to hand it over to my colleague, Dr. Conterputos, where he will discuss the scholarship part of the program.
So as Jenny L. mentioned earlier, the Texas First Early High School Completion Program offers an additional incentive, which is the Texas First Scholarship. So Chapter 22, Subchapter T, provides the necessary rules for the administration of that financial aid program. Texas residents who graduate through the early high school completion program will receive a state credit towards their college education. Unlike most state financial aid programs, which are funded via appropriations, this program is going to be funded by money that will be received from the Texas Education Agency via the Foundation School program. The amount that a student may receive is based on how early they graduate from high school. Graduating 2 or more semesters early allows them to receive a state credit equal to the maximum 2-semester Texas grant program. If they graduate less than 2 semesters early, then they receive 1/2 of that amount. In the coming academic year, those amounts are $10,758 and $5,379 respectively. That state credit can be used to cover tuition, fees, and other costs of attendance. A restriction on that credit is that it must be used by the end of the first academic year following the student's high school graduation, thus encouraging direct enrollment from high school. In addition to the outreach that Jenny L. mentioned to promote the program, the agency will also reach out to students who have indicated an intent to graduate early through the program to remind them of their potential scholarship eligibility. And all students who successfully graduate through the program will receive a certificate confirming that eligibility. As required by statute, the Texas First Scholarship Program is specifically targeted to encourage enrollment at Texas public research universities and emerging research universities. Sorry about that. For your reference, I have listed those institutions where a student may use their scholarship. As we move through our timeline for implementation, we move closer to the first students having the opportunity to benefit from these programs. We've accomplished the first 2 items on this slide and are now bringing the rules to the board for your approval. I should note that we received no comments on these rules during the comment period. Assuming approval of the rules today, they'll become effective in late August, which will allow the first opportunities for students to graduate through the Texas First Early High School Completion Program in December, after which they'll have the opportunity to enroll at eligible institutions to utilize their Texas First Scholarship. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
For the board members, I'm so excited that we're able to bring the draftables to you. I really want to commend our appreciation to the institutions very closely with us so that we could have this in the students would be able to take advantage of it as early as this next January. And of course, this is one of our signature initiatives that agency and with the legislature, so we can focus on the students that are high-achieving students who are just not enrolling in our Texas Institute across states, as we discussed. This is a unique approach that is taking. I'm excited that we've been able to get from discussion to legislation to proposed rules and bring those for your consideration on this kind of expedited timeline.
I echo what the commissioner is saying. Thank you to the staff. I know it takes a lot of work in the legislature, and this is a good example, as Commissioner has pointed out, on where we have something that we need to accomplish and look at some issues that we have, and we analyze those issues, and then we look for suggestions and ways of policy to come forth and get the funding and to be able to make a difference. And this is huge because this is something that always comes up with legislators or anyone you present these facts and data to. Why is that happening? So as we dig further, we see there are issues, and we want to be able to provide the funding. Again, at the end of the day, most of the time, it's the funding, right? And we don't want that to be an issue if we can provide that funding to help students move forward and be successful in their education. So thank you to the staff. Thank you to everybody, the legislature, Commissioner. I know this is a very high priority for us, as we've been discussing for a while, and the board for consideration of this as this committee makes a recommendation for the whole board tomorrow.
So, for my benefit, we're establishing the guidelines. We are an advisory board, then make the decisions as to who qualifies each year, or we give so much to the schools and they decide.
So the way it works is with the institution, so the program's set up, so it's essentially a competency-based high school graduation option that's linked to the criteria that the institutions themselves use for placement and also where they award credit for different. So where students have demonstrated early readiness for college in ways that the universities themselves would recognize. The board establishes the rules. We have the partnership also with TEA, and essentially the savings from the student leaving high school early are converted into a portable scholarship that follows the student. So it's not a competitive scholarship as many eligible Texas students that wanted to take advantage of it could. And so it gives us the ability to bring students in early, what we talked about before with the legislature and with Senator Creighton, who's the author of Senate Bill 1888. So we envision, like we bring blue chip athletes in for spring ball, that we need to bring students in semester or even a full year earlier to make sure that they will make that transition and also that they can be on track to be able to complete their program.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great. And the money, are we appropriating money and we reimburse, or is it just the schools do it, and where does the money come from?
So it comes from the funding that was appropriated by the legislature for the Foundation School Program for public schools, and so there's a robust funding source there because essentially funding was appropriated to serve the students during their senior year of high school, and the program essentially lets the coordinating board work with TEA to convert that into a scholarship that would follow the student
a great idea.
Into their institution. Yeah.
Real quick, I do want to commend the staff for making that so fast and making that happen. And we need to do whatever we need to do to bring those every year 6,000 students to college instead of letting them, do other things. So I think those are, those are the best students we have in our state. So we want them to excel in, come to our school and come to our. So I really thank the effort making this so quick and making that. Still do have the same question. I asked the same question just like last time. I wish we can know a little bit more about the driving reason, the real driving reason behind those. Every year, there's 6,000 students. They're not going to college, and money, of course, is very important. But how do you appropriate the money to their needs? We can have a little small poll of those 6,000 students. I mean, it's hard to do a survey. Finding those compelling reasons. Is it a family? Is they have to work? So asking them to graduate early does not help because if they can go to college, if I can work in college and I take 5 years and I can, but I can still work to support my family. Those are maybe the driving reason. Then this scholarship is not going to help out a lot because we want them to graduate college quick. But my lifestyle, actually, I need to work but I also be excel in college, and maybe we can target those funding to meet the needs. So we don't know the needs, the real driving needs, and yes, we can throw the money there. Hopefully, we'll cover most of them. But if there's a small polling that for those students that find out it's a family's culture, different situation, lifestyle. I don't know. So so that would be just one of the things that I would just throw it to the staff and let them figure it out. Find out the true driving reasons, and then we will have a program really target those driving reasons in different ways, not just one size fit all. Maybe that's eventually come back. It's just the money. So that scholarship will help. But that's why I'm just my two.
I do have one quick question. In the eligibility criteria, is there something that's going to focus on these kids that are on higher ed, or could any student, this would, any student who's high performing is eligible for this, correct? Not just the ones who were losing.
Correct. So this is for, the program is being launched for current high school students. So as Member Wong mentioned, those 6,000, we do need to do that research to find out where those 6,000 are. And but this program is open to students who are currently in high school or rising into the 9th grade as well.
Correct. I guess so we would just need to monitor over time to see if this number reduces, if this was one of those key factors. There's nothing specifically targeting African American, Hispanic, and other underrepresented communities.
Correct. It's all through the eligibility through their academics. Okay.
So the extent that it would be more in the targeted outreach and working with the, particularly focusing on schools that historically have sent lower numbers of students.
Question regarding the outreach campaign. Are we employing social media in any kind of?
We will be working with our Texas On-Course crew that will have the advisor module created in that platform, and we will continue to look at ways that we can absolutely communicate this and brand it statewide.
If it's on social media, the students will see it.
Absolutely.
If it's not, they won't. Yes, sir. And it's easy. You reach masses of people through social media. Any other questions? Not. Do I have a motion to adopt Board Rules 21.50 through 21.55 concerning the Texas First Early High School Completion Program and new Board Rules 22.550 through 22.556 concerning the Texas First Scholarship Program? May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Emma Swartz. May I have a second? Second by Sam Torn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 6 is adjournment. If there is no other further discussion, may I have a motion? And moved by Fred Frias. May I have a second? Second by Daniel Wong. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Motion passes. We'll now take a short break to allow the staff to set up for the Agency Operations Committee meeting. The next meeting will begin shortly.